Hi girls, today we will be starting a new chapter, Primementary Books. So the facts that we will be discussing in this chapter, Introduction to Primementary Books, Necessity of Primementary Books, Source Document, Uses of Source Document. So Primementary books can also be called as journals, day books, subsidiary books. Okay, so these are the other terms for Primementary books. So remember these: journals, day books, subsidiary books. Okay, so you know what a transaction is. Okay, you know what a transaction is. Purchasing goods, purchasing goods on credit, selling goods on credit, purchasing machinery, paid electricity bill, all of these are transaction. And you know about ledger accounts as well. Okay, you know purchase account, sales account, you know how to prepare a ledger account. So we will be focusing on these Primementary books now. Before posting this transaction to ledger accounts, you will have to record them in the Primementary book first. So this is what we are going to discuss. So what is Primementary book? The Primementary books are the books in which the transaction of a business are recorded at first, according to the order in which each transaction had occurred, by using a generally accepted method before recording them in the ledger account. So in simple terms, before recording the transaction on ledger accounts, you post them in the Primementary books, and according to the order in which each transaction has occurred based on the dates. Hence, before the transactions are recorded in ledger accounts, they should be recorded in separate set of books known as Primementary books. Okay. So it is not suitable to record all the transaction in a single Primementary book. Okay, you can't have one book and then record all the transactions in there. So in case if you want to find the detail urgently, you won't be able to find it because all the details are there. So on the same date, we would have done so many transactions. So like when you take a big business, obviously they are doing so many transactions on a day. So it's best to classify and record based on their nature and other common characteristics. So classify them. Classify all the transaction. Cash transaction goes under this Primementary book. Credit transaction goes under this Primementary book. Likewise, you classify and record them. Accordingly, the transactions which are similar in nature and occur recurrently should be recorded in different Primementary book. Like I said, all the cash transaction will go to cash book. Okay, so like that we have many types, various types of transaction and various types of Primementary books. Transactions related to receipt and payment of cash. See, cash. The Primementary book will be cash book. Transaction carried out through the bank current account will be bank account. You have a bank account, Primementary book, and then anything related to your bank account will be dealt with this. Petty cash transaction, you have a separate Primementary book saying petty cash book. We will learn about this petty cash transaction later, but in simple terms, petty cash is the small expenses that happen every day, like transportation, food expenses, the small expenses that occur, they come under petty cash transaction. Purchase of trade goods on credit, purchase journal. Sales of trade goods on credit, sales journal. So purchase journal and sales journal, remember, it's on goods on credit. Okay, purchase trade goods on credit, sales of trade goods on credit. Other transactions generally go to the general journal. Other transactions, this also you will learn later. Okay, what are the necessity of Primementary books? Why do we have to maintain a Primementary book? Similar types of transaction of a period need to be classified and recorded. As I told you all before, you need to classify and record them. Posting transaction to the ledger becomes systematic and convenient after recording them in Primementary book. So when you have classified it into Primementary book, so you know what are the two books that will be related to. Let's say if we are taking cash book. So cash book meaning one of the ledger account is going to be cash book account. Okay, so then it's very convenient. And when you take purchase journal, there's going to be a purchase account. Okay, and also it says on credit. So when you have it on credit, what happens? You will have a creditors account. And when you say sales journal, you will have a sales account. At the same time it says credit, so you will have a debtors account. So you know what are the accounts when you look at the prime entry book itself. So it's systematic and convenient to record into ledger from the prime entry books. Responsibility of preparing each prime entry book can be assigned distinctly to various individuals. So now when you take a big company, if one person is going to deal with all the transaction, it's going to be messy. So in a case like this, you will have one person to deal with cash book and another person to deal with petty cash book. Like that, you can divide responsibility and give each person. It is easy to maintain the ledger because the total of prime entry books are posted to the ledger, which minimizes the number of entry posted. Now, you will take the total of prime entry books and you will post them in ledger. You are not going to post each transaction by transaction. Rather, you will bring a brought forward. Or you can take the total of each and come and post it on the ledger. Okay. Minimize the occurrence of accounting errors, and it is easy to find out such errors. So when you make errors, you don't have to go through everything. So you can, if you find the error in one book, then you know that error is there. So you don't have to go through everything else again. Okay. Information of the transaction is obtained from source documents. Now we are going to the next part of it, source documents. Okay. So you would have seen when I showed you this before, there is transaction, ledger, and you know what a prime entry book is, and there is something called source document. So it is important to study the relationship between the source documents and prime entry books. What are these source documents? So information related to this transaction can be found in this source document. For example, if you take a receipt, you pay school fees, you get a receipt. So on that receipt, the transaction details are there. Date you paid the fees, the amount you paid, your name, the name of the school, signature, and all these details are in this source document. So using this receipt, you can post them in the prime entry book. So the source documents, as and when transactions take place in a business, the documents prepared by including all the details of such transaction and authorized by a person in charge are known as source documents. So in your next chapters, if you turn and see, you will see cash book, petty cash book. There you will see receipts and payment vouchers and so on. They are the source documents. Okay, so these transactions that take place, when and what, and all these details are there in a source document, and it is authorized or signed by the person in charge. If you take your fees, it's signed by the person in charge for the fees. Okay, so source documents include the following detail: name and the address of the business, serial number. There's something called serial number. Again, girls, I want you all to check your next chapter where it's about cash book. There you will see a receipt. On that receipt, you will see a serial number. Serial number is like the continuation of number. So one person will have 001. The next person who pays the fees will have 002. And after that, it goes on like that, 003, 004. So you know in which order the fees has been paid, who has paid when, and all. The date on which the transaction had taken place. Obviously, if you take a receipt, you will find the date. The details of the other party, that is connection to the transaction. So it will have the details of the fees pay, the one who paid the fees. It will have the details of the school. Description of the transaction. What is the description? You paid school fees, or did you purchase a good? Did you things like that will be there in the source document. The monetary value of the transaction. So if we are taking, you paid school fees, how much did you pay? Monetary value meaning how much you paid. If you purchased goods, how much worth of goods you purchased. Signature of the officer who is responsible for this transaction, and you will see a seal or a signature at the bottom. Okay, so prime entry books. Now you know what are the prime entry books: cash book, bank accounts, petty cash book, purchase journal, sales journal, general journal, all of these. What are the source documents? So you should know which source document should go to which prime entry book. Receipts and payment voucher goes to cash book. Receipt meaning it's related to cash, and payment voucher also cash transaction. So it goes under cash book. Deposit slip, payment voucher, bank statement, check return notification goes under bank account. Petty cash book goes petty cash voucher, petty cash payment voucher goes under petty cash book. Purchase invoice, purchase journal, sales invoice, sales journal, journal voucher, general journal. So this girls, you can go through your next chapters. All of these source documents are there in your book. You can just say samples, okay? So I want you all to do that so that you all will have less questions. What is this question will be less if you go and see the samples, purchase invoice, sales invoice, and there's something else that there in your activity, credit note and debit note. Don't consider that for now. Debit note and credit note come for purchase return and sales return. So it doesn't come here. There is something called purchase return and sales return. There you will get debit note and credit note. Since it's not here in your syllabus, don't be bothered at the moment. Okay. Uses of source document. What are the uses of source document? Can be used as an initial document for a transaction. So before posting them in the prime entry book, you will have source documents. Can be used as a written evidence of transaction. So you have a proof that the transaction has taken place. Additional information on transaction can be obtained. Date, name, address, and so many other informations can be obtained from the source document. Can be used for recording transaction in the prime entry book. From the source document, we record the transactions in the prime entry book. So it can be used for that purpose. Responsibility can be assigned to a specific officer as it is authorized by that person. Okay. So this will be your homework, activity 1, 2, 3 and 4. With that, we'll be done with this chapter. It's not much. Simple things that we have learned. It's all theory of these accounts. You're not doing real accounts here. It's only theory. And remember what I said about debit note and credit note. One of these activity has that. Don't get confused with purchase invoice and sales invoice. This is different. Credit note and debit note is different. That doesn't fall under these journals. Just remember that. And you will have to submit this homework. I'll put a due date and I'll post them on the Google Classroom. Check that and submit the work on time. Okay.